neighbours where I live is the Alamance Partnership for Children. Somebody that works there said, "Hey, you're an artist, aren't you? They're looking for artists for some project." She said, "It's got something to do with mental health." It just sounded interesting, and I just thought, cool. This exhibition is about families and trauma. Each artist will be matched with one of the families involved in this project. I know I'm going to have to spend a good deal of time with the family to really get to know them and to be able to tell their unique story through art and to raise awareness with the bigger picture of mental health and trauma in very young children.
Well, Gerardo is my only great-grandson. That's the only great-grandson I have. And me and him have a bond. I help him by taking care of him. He helped me by doing everything he can for me.
Do you hear it?
Yeah, I hear it. We just together, like, can't nobody else separate us but the Lord, because it's just me and Gerardo.
Got it! See? See it?
And so how did you feel when we first met at that very first?
Oh, I was all for it. I was all for this project.
Yeah.
I really was all for this project. Because to me, I just think that, this is stuff that needs to be known. Somebody needs to tell it the way these little kids get treated, I just really think it needs to be known. Social service brought him to me. His daddy was still here at that time. Then when he went to prison, whatever he had to do, he was going to do it for me to make sure that I keep Gerardo.
Mm-hmm. So I'm making a quilt. This quilt should have a piece of everyone in it that's involved in this project. Yeah, I really want it to be made with the clothing of his father's because, where I come from in New Zealand, the Maori people have something called mana. And mana is really such an important thing. It's almost like the spirit that an object holds. It's crucial for me that I use his dad's clothing because his dad's mana is in it, traveling through to Gerardo. But it's going to be soft and thick and warm. It's going to have your daddy's writing on it. You know how that's going to happen?
No.
You know how he writes you letters?
No.
You know how he writes letters to your grandma?
Because my daddy loves my grandma.
Yeah. But you know what I'm doing? Hey. What I'm doing is I'm just adding his father's words and actually really enhancing the mana that the clothes already have. And, and then having his grandmother sew it and put it together enhances the mana even more. I guess a lot of the mental health issues that are everywhere, but people don't really maybe even think of as mental health issues. It's probably in our own families, and we just are not always aware of it. I've learned from this project, from the first meeting when we had a professional come in, a mental health professional, to explain the types of things that traumatize this age group. I have much better understanding of why my own children have been traumatized, but I didn't know I was traumatizing them by moving them to different locations or by changing their schools or by having my daughter stay with my sister for a few years.
I think the expectation is that children at that age can't have these social emotional concerns, aren't affected by trauma. That stuff all goes away if they've been traumatized by something. They'll grow out of it. It doesn't affect them. And the research shows that it does affect them, and it has long-term consequences, especially given that brain development is happening at that same time.
For me, it felt like, oh, I'm going into a situation with a family that is like many situations I've been in before. And so I just thought I'll be getting to know some people and hopefully be able to represent this family in a way that can produce something positive, that can help everyone.
Come on. Yeah.
This is the shadow of Christian. It's on the back seat of the car. I just turned the camera backwards and pressed the button a few times. The thing that I saw in this picture is that some of his behavior is shadowed. We don't know what it is, what makes him strike out. But it said to me, we have to draw out and eventually get rid of it. All of us, no matter what our situation is, we go through a risk avoidance determination, and how much is it going to, the risk of getting involved, and do I want to get involved? Well, I want to show, for example, I have one word. The father is, in my eyes, protective, loving, affectionate, but determined that his son will thrive. And I think that's the important thing. And hopefully I will get some more shots like that.
He's got a lot of fighting on camera.
He seems like a very normal child. As I say, I've only seen him twice, but on the third occasion, when the total group was together a couple of weeks ago, he came up and said, "I remember you. Do you remember me?" And I certainly do. So.
When you've got a little boy 3.5, 4 years old that will, I don't really know, just his general attitude, he was mean. I mean, he was, of course, I'm a Marine, I'll always be a Marine, but at least I've got somewhere to put my anger to. He didn't. But if you've been slapped in the mouth or slapped down to the floor for no reason, you're gonna hold some anger.
Trauma can be anything that overwhelms a child's ability to cope. So anything that's sort of, we kind of think of things that are sudden, unexpected, and negative, and out of the child's control.
He was kidnapped when he was a baby. His mama kidnapped him, and I've just been so paranoid since then.
You love yourself, because that's part of life. If you don't love yourself, then you can't love anybody else.
Wow.
But we also know that there's a lot to do with what's going on inside their brains in terms of the way their brain is getting wired, and that they are not as able to calm themselves as other children when they're under stress, and they're not as able to express their emotions. And so we see sort of these spikes in the way that they express themselves emotionally.
Can't just lash out at people. And so this is the central picture that I want to bring about through this shadow. But Christian is other things too. He's very happy. He's very happy at this moment. He's had a little refreshment from his drink sitting on the front porch.
I went to the Alliance and I've asked them for help, and they've given me a lot. Well, actually, believe it or not, I was watching a commercial, and it was about mental illness, and how pressure would be not to have the help. So I've got to do some investigating, calling around. Social services is the one that says these are the closest people. This is who you need to get in touch with. It changed a whole lot of different ways of me actually thinking, wow, these people are just really fantastic. They're here to help. They're not here to ridicule me.
We'd like to stay out of the blaming game. relative to parents. I think almost all parents are doing the best they can do under the circumstances. I think almost all parents want the best possible for their children. We don't want to label these families and these children. We want the community to embrace them and recognize that, you know, we all have social emotional concerns at some point in our lives.
You did number 43.
It's been hard. I think she's made a ton of gains, but she has difficulties being around other children and adults sometimes. So she has had problems making friends. I think she's doesn't always feel real great about herself, and so it kind of makes relationships difficult for her. But she has, I think, done a lot better. She's better able to control her feelings, talk about her feelings, not get so angry, use some of the skills that she's learned. And I think she talks about friends more than she did. She's still, for the most part, plays by herself and doesn't really play with other children, but I have seen a lot of improvements in that area over time. And so I imagine that that'll get stronger, you know, as she gets older. She was probably between 2 and 3, and she was going to daycare, and the daycare workers had approached me before I had realized it was a problem and said, you know, she's not outgrowing biting and hitting and things like that where her peers are. You know, they're learning to talk and share, and Sarah's not. And so at times it's been exhausting and overwhelming and difficult, because for a very long time didn't really understand what was going on, just knew that she was in a lot of pain and needed a lot of help, but really wasn't sure what was wrong with her. And when you don't know what's wrong, you really don't know how to help. And so
behavioral problems, which is probably the third major leg of what we see. Most times, young children in particular, children in the first 5 years, will go unnoticed for having problems unless they're having dramatic behavioral problems.
We pull out of here. Okay, if you say we pull out a camera, let's pull out a camera.
Eventually it ended up with, she was recommended for a mental health evaluation, and started the process moving forward to get her into a special preschool program, and kind of when services started for us. So I guess started around 2 or 3 when it was first noticeable.
Many people don't consider children in the first 5 years as being able to benefit from mental health. And in fact, oftentimes funding sources won't even pay for young children in the first 3 years of their lives to receive any mental health services. That's a pretty common scenario.
I realized it was Sarah's picture, not mine.
I think done a lot better. She's better able to control her feelings, talk about her feelings. Sarah loves our dogs. We have 2 puppies, Cupcake and Brownie, and she takes gymnastics and riding lessons. So other than that, we are at home, and she loves video games, and just being together. I found out about the project through the parent partner we work with, Barbara, and she had talked to me about it and wondered if we'd be interested, and it's actually ended up being a very positive experience, and they've done amazing work, and they've spent a lot of time with us, getting to know Sarah, getting to know me, and kind of a window into our world. So it's been a good experience.
I have a picture of your brother Benjamin at about age 3 doing that. I'm excited to see the artwork and see what different artists perceive and how they express it. With Carmen, it was at 3 when we were evicted. So there was separation.
But like every time I visited the family, I would write down kind of my reflections from it. and then see what direction I want it to go into, and that's kind of how my, oh yeah, here's some of it. I don't know where the sketches are, but here's some of it. And so while there, I jotted down Carmen is artistic, colorful, she remembers everything. Her mom said that she's very concrete and she's not cuddly. Like Colin will hug and kiss you all the time. But he said that he had anger management and he lashes out.
That says me.
Yes, he is. So I don't have a big support system, and that's one of the things that kind of colors my world.
I think, you know, telling her story, it lets people know who are in similar situations that they're not alone.
I think, honestly, the field of child mental health is in its infancy. We have our feet underneath us in terms of knowing some of the important issues, but there is definitely a problem of awareness.
You know, a person on the outside perspective might not necessarily see that at first.
And I took a series of 4 or 5 of Calvin the Father, holding his son Christian. And I'm not sure that I knew what I took when I did it, because they were just